Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we started putting the production of our massive Electronics 2 factory to good use by building the Construction Parts 4 module of our Construction Parts factory. With that addition, this factory is finally complete, as this is the last level of construction parts in the game. We also moved our existing maintenance facility and expanded it over here to include Maintenance 2, a new resource required for advanced buildings going forward, and gave it its own integrated recycling setup here. Today, we'll continue down that path of using all the Electronics 2 that we're building. I'm thinking we aim for Lab Equipment 3 and the Research Lab 3 upgrade. We've already unlocked the technology, so all we have to do is actually produce the Lab Equipment 3 itself. I think we'll also probably be able to build household appliances, and we'll see where we go from there. Quickly, before we dive into that though, we are short on workers. So before we add a whole bunch of new buildings that require more workers, we need to do something about that. As much as it would be totally reasonable to simply add another bit of housing here, we're quite close to upgrading to Housing 4, which will just short of double our housing capacity for the 2,000 and change people we already have. So I think we're going to try to hold out so that we can maintain only our existing footprint without complicating the rest of the nearby space, even if only temporarily. So, we'll just need to pause a few buildings that are not as actively required, and we'll just try to hold on until we're able to make those upgrades. We're already unloaded our crew. I've paused our cargo ship that we aren't really using. These are kind of small beans though, and really, I think the simplest thing to do, given that we're still ramping up our Electronics 2 consumption, and we're not really fully there yet, and we have this massive buffer, would be to just simply temporarily pause half of this massive factory. So we'll pause 5 here. 2.5 means we still need the third, so let's just do those. And then the sort of top row, so to speak, over here, and suddenly we have tons of workers. So, all good there. We will then want to unpause all of this because we are about to do Lab Equipment 3, right? So, part of why we decided to move our maintenance facility from this location where it previously was is because it gives us a little bit more space right next to our Lab Equipment 2 production as it exists today. Let's unpause and talk through it a little bit more. These Research Lab 2s only require 12 Lab Equipment 2 each, so it's one of these Assembly 3s per Research Lab. When we want to upgrade, however, they require 24. So we'll need 8 of these assemblies, essentially, which will require another 4 for 8 total here, and we'll have to double all the way up the supply chain. Now, in the not so distant future, we'll get access to Assembly 4s, an upgrade to Assembly 3s, just like the previous ones that doubles the throughput. It also requires computing, but reduces the workforce requirement. So, another alternative, if we just want to double this for a short-term period of time, would be to Unity Boost. And boy do we ever have an excess of Unity these days. We're running our entire steel production on Unity, right? And we may actually finally no longer need to do that because this is the most steel we've frankly ever had. But the point is, especially for something we know is for a limited period of time, we could simply Unity Boost this entire setup and set up 4 Unity Boosted assemblies here for Lab Equipment 3. That fits very nicely into this existing footprint. if we were to do basically this, right? It actually fits very nicely with this road. It's a sign. We should just do that, right? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll simply change this recipe to go here. We'll need to bring in some electronics too, just like we do here. Place them here, and we'll need an output. I'll probably delete this one since we no longer need lab equipment 2. And we'll sort of shift these things around here. So I'm going to go into an extremely fast little time lapse, and we'll be right back. Easy as that. So we'll bring in the electronics 2 here. These, I realized this is just 1-to-1, so why not make the outputs directly go to the next machine, right? And then we'll collect it up here and we'll send it across. This will change into a lab equipment 3 storage once we have enough to upgrade these labs. Simple as. I'm going to do one last thing. Just to make that line up nicer. Great, done. Let's build it all. No reason not to. Now, we said we'll have to Unity boost all of this and all of this, but we could save Unity boosting 4 machines by simply adding 2 more of each of these. This footprint is not so big a deal. So I think I'm going to do that real quick as well here. Okay, so that's all this. The math isn't actually perfect here, right? We make 24 here, but we only require 16 here. You might have seen me playing around with the calculator here. Technically, we need 2.67 of these. We could have them all merge up and then come back down, and then we'd only have to build 3 instead of 4. I don't really mind. It doesn't change our steel consumption. It's just whether or not we happen to have 1 extra building here. The ratios will probably change when we end up upgrading some of these anyway, so good enough for now for me. Last thing we need to do is just bring the paper back so that it is still connected as it was here, but I think actually we'll just do here and flip this direction. Okay, let's build all this and then remind ourselves exactly what we need to be boosting. So, all of these 8, these are now fine. How about paper though? We actually need to boost 1 of these because we'll require out here while boosted 8 times 4, right? 24 paper. We make 12. Actually, we're fine without boosting this. Never mind. So, even better. This is being filled very shortly. And then this should all start running. And we're still positive on Unity despite all that boosting. So, all good in my book. Let's check back in on it in a moment. But we will trigger these upgrades for now. I think that's also going to increase our people requirements. We'll live, hopefully. But that should help us cruise through the research here pretty quickly. Cool. All right, the next thing we can think about is household appliances. So let's bring that recipe up. We require electronics 1, electronics 2, and steel. And we make household appliances. They are consumed in our settlement by way of a household appliances module, just as our household goods module operates. So, just like this, we'll probably make a setup right here. And in fact, just to get it on the ground, we would simply change this here. And we would need to bring in 3 resources. So of course, I suppose we should make room for that. Now those 3 resources are electronics 1, 2, and steel. Steel's right here. We could probably just run it over here, save ourselves building a whole nother extra storage. But we will need to bring in electronics 1 and 2. This is a little bit too far to run. We might as well just bring those over. We'll also need an export storage. We will, just as we started to plan over here with household goods, export our excess via contracts in the future. And if you've been listening closely or even half closely, you've heard me say, don't worry about wood. We're just going to export extra household appliances to bring in a ton of wood. It's like a 10-to-1 ratio roughly. So that's pretty good. So that means we'll want to make sure that not only is this, a decent sized storage, and in fact, I think with that in mind, we'll probably increase its size. Probably do the same here in a moment. We want to make sure that it's closely accessible to the shore, which is where using a cargo ship type setup, probably over here, we'll end up importing those goods. So the shorter the trip, the better. Not that there's a huge difference placing anywhere within this square, but the last consideration. All right, not enough maintenance too. That means that we have finally built these, which also means we need to turn this on. And we are super low on workers. Frankly, we could probably pause this entire production for now, given the size of the buffer that we have. This is just about buying a little bit of time. Coming in, by the way. We also probably need to upgrade a lot of belts here. And in fact, I'm going to use my new favorite tool and just upgrade all of the belts in this entire complex. Is that crazy? We're doing it. Because we can super afford it. Why wouldn't we? It is no longer an issue on either the parts or the maintenance to keep those up. So we're pleased. All right, but these are starting to roll in. We need to change this to lab equipment 3, and we'll just run it across here. I suppose we could put this on a belt directly. We would probably just do like this. Doesn't fit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind every once in a while running this across. If it starts to be a problem, we'll consider doing that in the future. But for now, I think we're okay. All right, I will very quickly set up the belt work required here. So I'm trying to maintain this access road through the back here. And that intention already resulted in some awkwardness here that I'm wondering if there's a better way to avoid. This is basically the same exact system that we had over here. The issue is we need to be able to drive through here, which means that we have to elevate in order to get up. But we can't elevate here or here because that closes the door, so to speak. I'm not sure there's a better way to do this. I think it's okay. I'm not super worried about it. So we're gonna live with it. All right, so that'll do. Steel will come through here, goes in along the top level. Electronics 1 comes in on level 2, and electronics 2 on level 1, perhaps counterintuitively. But that's all right. Let's build this, and we need 15 to start. One of these makes 12. Perfect. Let's build 2. We will, of course, need the entire infrastructure associated with sending it down this way. Great, so that's good. We have 2 more upgrades, and in fact, they are waiting on parts 4 instead of lab equipment, which is perfect. That means we'll have a good starting pile there, and the 2 labs we already have upgrading are cruising. The other thing to keep in mind, these actually produce more research points too, right? So we go from 13 to 27. We're doubling the input, but also the output, which is another way of saying we're doubling the throughput, which is true of most of these upgrades. So of course, the technologies over here, like nuclear, is 3.5 research points. What we're currently doing on power generation in the previous sequence is a third of that, right? So we need to double our throughput for research. They all have different amounts, of course, but it does mean that when we go back and pick up some of these old ones that we haven't grabbed yet, it'll happen super fast. So it is required, but also powerful. Maybe we will even, because we have a decent amount of parts 3, prioritize kicking over to parts 4, which we've also done here as well. The next time we run out of parts 1 will be the first time in 20 episodes, so no worries there. All right, great. So we're cruising along. That is pretty good progress pretty quickly. So what else should we be doing? Everything else around here looks okay. And as soon as these are actually built, we'll probably turn back on. Actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to unpause this. We started building a ramp up here to get access to all the trees up here. But also just in preparation for thinking about the infrastructure in this area for our mining outpost. This was entirely flat last episode, so I think we have, at best, the rest of this episode and the start of the next before we need our new iron mine. So starting to think about that. In order to finish this ramp and get access up there, we need a new terraforming crew. You'll remember that in a hasty scramble to fix coal, I don't know, one of the 20 times we had to do that in the last several episodes. We don't want him backing up. We moved all of our terraforming guys over here to this coal mine, and that's been super helpful, for sure. But we have the vehicle cap to just add more instead of having to compromise on that front. So I think we're going to bring back a decently sized terraforming crew to finish out the vehicle cap that we currently have. So that'll be 5 excavators, and 15 trucks. We have the parts. Let's let it get after it. Let's see. What else should we be thinking about now? I think there's a few other things that I wanted to do, odds and ends, around this sort of Broad Street area to try to keep tidying up. We've been working on this water main situation over here. And by the way, how is that supply going? These seem to still require being boosted unless they're just the front ones. They are. Let's try turning this down and see if that keeps up, because this reserve, well, it won't change the pace that we're killing this reserve, but it will save us some unity. But I am definitely keeping an eye on this reserve. I think our rate is going to stabilize. I think we just have to pull a lot out of the ground to sort of catch up here. But I think we'll be in okay shape going forward, but very much to be confirmed. I am not going to simply assume that and move on. There's a little bit of tweaking I might do around here for copper. So let's remind ourselves what this setup looks like. We receive coal. We've decided to start grinding our copper ore. No, we haven't yet. We could do that if we wanted to go up to Blast Furnace 2, which is more efficient. It's not just about throughput there, it's actually more efficient. So we could upgrade this, we could upgrade these, we would have to add twice as many of these or unity boost them. We're keeping up on copper, so I don't know if we need to prioritize that, but we could set up the water. This water, by the way, is just, well, it's two things. It's primarily, it's a backup for if we ever run out of acid. This was something we put in place when we didn't have a ton of sulfur lying around. Right when we first started building our refinery, we were just squeaking out a little bit of sulfur. Now, we make so much sulfur that we have to be able to throw some of it in the ocean after processing it. So I don't think we need to worry about having an acid backup anymore, but we do need to make sure that water comes to the mixer so that we can make that acid. So I think we can clean it up and simply reconnect this mixer to this water main, which is right here. So I'll do that real quick. All right, so there's that. As soon as that gets built, acid will go through this area in a little bit more tidy way. We also could have this exhaust setup meet up over here a little bit earlier, which I might prefer it to do as well, instead of having this rather large pipe in this area too. So I'll do that real quick as well. Great, that's complete. I believe this throughput should be just fine. It seems like there's plenty of room. It's a 450 pipe. It goes all the way over. And that should make all of this go along this path, unified instead. Cool. That's tidier. All right, the other thing we just unlocked while I was doing all that is Power Generation 4. These are upgrade in place upgrades for our high pressure and low pressure turbines, as well as the power generators and the large cooling tower. These are not any more efficient necessarily, I don't think, but let's take a look. These actually are. So let's put these down on the map and take a look at their recipes. 24, 6, 24. 48, 12, 48. This is simply twice the throughput. Okay. How about the low pressure turbine? 24, 3, 24, 48, 6, 48. Great, same thing, just twice the throughput. However, 3 to 2, 18 to 15. One of these takes the same input as 6 of these, if you actually line them all up in a functional way, right? So 6 times 3, 18. Okay. This pile of 6 puts out 6 times 2, 12 megawatts. This, again, for the same input, puts out 15. It's 3 extra free power. So this is better. It also takes up less space, which is going to make upgrading our turbines a little bit of a pain, but ultimately means they are more space efficient. Okay, that's nice. And then finally, big water tower. Okay, 24 to 12, 96, so 4x, to 60, 5x. So it's a quadruple throughput and better efficient tower. That's very good. So, to replicate this entire turbine, just to be clear, we could go from 4 of these and 4 of these. Sorry, 4 of these and 6 of these, because we also have the output of our exhaust scrubber. So we could do this is equivalent to all of our current steam processing. And we currently have 4, 8, 12, 14 of these fellas. And if we can replace 6, we wouldn't even run this one, the third one, at full speed. But we would need a third one, I mean. And, you know, I suppose we would still want the same 2. But look how much shorter that is, right? That's pretty good. And that's before we even get to, well, if we need 6 of these, that makes 2 of these more than sufficient. So not only is this all, again, smaller, more compact, a better footprint, it is more efficient. We'll get back more water, which means we're consuming less water from this reservoir, important, and we're getting more power out for the exact same inputs. Now we could upgrade all 4 of these. We would have to double our input, but we'd double our output. But I think, looking at this system, we might prefer to just sort of tidy it up, clean it up a little bit. Because, as we've mentioned, this is rings of a tree. You can see how we built this out. And the same is true over here, by the way. We could probably just delete 1/2 of this and upgrade these. So we'll probably do something similar over there as well. All right, so I'm going to try not to break everything because this will be quite a surgical task to clear all these out, but we'll probably do it stepwise. So what do I mean by that? Well, it'll be easier to trim things off the ends. So what I'll do is I'll upgrade first, right? We aren't going to have enough construction parts for this to happen all at once as well. So something else to keep in mind here. What are we limited on? Electronics. Okay. Wonder if that's temporary. We just added some electronic storage, but we have also added a decent amount of electronics consumption. So we're going to find out. How's this going? Oh, and you know what? We do want to prioritize this, actually. Well, maybe not urgent, but over our power production as well. So we'll chill on this, but this will be the first step. And once we've done that, we can delete these two. Now that'll disconnect these power gens. We should have enough backup capacity in the system over here. Right? Look how few of these are actually spinning to absorb that as a, as we're changing, as we're adjusting sort of transition point. But that'll allow us to trim back our footprint in this direction, which is good because this is poking out a little bit. And then, well, we'll decide what to do next, right? But we can trim back in this direction as well. These, by the way, don't require other construction parts. 4. So this one might be worth just creating a separate water facility, call it, here. Instead of just sticking these on the end, we would reconsolidate the pipes, send them over here. Maybe do something like this. Make it so our pipes can join up first, which means they have to be flat at the connecting point. So I'll go up here, I suppose. Actually, just stay on the ground until then. Be something like this. And this. Seems fine throughput-wise. Anyway, we'll come back to it when we're able. But let's keep these labs the priority for now. So, okay, good. That is helping electronics too, which does make me think it was just, we added a storage down here. And is this even working yet? Still need steel. Oh, yeah, of course. Never built the thing. Let's also make this a larger buffer, huh? We have the steel, so it shouldn't be a problem. We're also getting up there on concrete, so let's keep paving. Where's the next important place? Let's keep this road going, I guess. It feels like this road goes here and then I guess has to circumvent the the wastewater, so I mean this definitely all gets very industrial in this area. And then I suppose it does continue on in here. And then comes over into this direction. Sure. And then here, I don't really know. This area is still sort of expanded or reserved for the future expansion of an 8-slot cargo dock. So we'll go from 4 to 8, so it should double. That's what the space is for. It doesn't really need to be accessible as a result. But I suppose this is still something that trucks need to be able to access. Oh, they do seem to be driving through here. Yeah, okay, so this is the only way that they can come around here. So yes, this is important then. If this is really a roadway, we should do something about these pipes. It's fine. This whole area is industrial access only, really, so I don't mind if that's a bit messier. This area, we do want to access all the way back to the ammonia, we said, so I suppose we can pave that too. I'm finally deleting this flare. We never use it, and I'm very pleased about that. But let's pave back here too. I suppose this is something. It's probably where trucks are picking up our diesel. Great. Feels like that probably torched our cement for a bit. Good. That's what you like to see. And do we have our lab? We do. It's being upgraded. Cool. All right. So that means these are probably next. Whenever we get a chance. We'll keep these cruising. You are short on 3s at this point because you're short on 2s. You seem to be short on 1s somehow. System might just be catching up, I suppose. Guess so. Oh, we're short on workers again. What's new? Oh, but that's good. That means that means that we have upgraded our labs. So, is this keeping up? Well, you know what's not keeping up is the belts. Because if each of these needs 24, that is more than 60. So even though we have the supply, it's not getting all the way down there. Let's fix that. Same's going to be true on outputs, by the way, for recyclables. So we'll do that real quick. That's all looking good, though. Speaking of recyclables, let's just tell these to stay all the way empty. It's not that we need them to stay empty, it's just that that's good stuff, and it's actually like raw ore avoidance to be sending it over. Oh, and since we actually got rid of the input over here, we need this. Okay, it can accept, good, and it's coming over. Fine, that works. I think we should do the same here, now that I think about it. And we'll have you accept, yeah, let's have you accept copper scrap, actually, and run it over here. Maybe that's a ramp back here. You know, something like this. Under and around. Then we don't need this anymore. So we'll delete that. Change to priority in here. This does block us from using any of these outputs, but I'm pretty sure I don't care. We're not going to run glass all the way down there. We're certainly not going to run iron all the way over there, but that should save us a few trips here and there. And then good. This is actually saturating that line as well, even though we don't have the workers quite yet. But this is cruising along, which is good. We know we're low on tofu, we know we have workers. Are household appliances being built yet? They are, check this out. In fact, I suppose we'll have to build that if we want to prioritize them to our base, but very shortly. Goodness. Very shortly, we should be receiving a nice little jump in Unity for that as well. If you keep wondering why I do this accidentally, I keep trying to press escape to clear this screen. It does not do that. I don't know why I continue to expect it to. It's probably just muscle memory. I see a menu I want to close, I press escape. But sorry about that. I know it bothers me. I'm sure it bothers you a little bit, so I'll keep working on it. But cool, so we have a free excavator, or 5 apparently around here somewhere. So it's probably time to build ourselves a mind control tower out here. This will be the first of several in this area, I am sure. And then we'll give it all 5 available and 2 trucks each, I suppose. And we'll tell it to work on this. And where should they dump? Let's add a dumping zone out here. To create a little bit of waterfront on this side of the island. Not that that's an incredibly important thing to be doing right now, it's more just like a productive place for them to dump the material as well. That momentary error means, in fact, we've upgraded here. So that means we can pause this one, because this now is worth both of these. This will definitely need upgraded as a result. Right. 48 plus 24, more than a 60 pipe can do. The rest of the system should be unaffected for now. We'll wait until this one is upgraded next, and then we should have that same upgrade and pause dynamic here. And then we'll start making some changes surgically throughout here as well. In fact, one of the things we could look at is what fits in here. So if we're going to need 3 of these eventually, this doesn't line up nice and tidy, does it? Kind of does. We would still leave one of those generators in place, and then we could start swapping these out. 1 to 1 even. Okay, that's pretty good. Of course, we'll have to do the piping. But it'd be nice to have all these in a row instead of sort of spread out and then right next to, right, the water in the first place. Sort of help consolidate this entire area a bit. All right, cool. Longer term, that's still happening. All right, the other thing we could do, this has been, I don't know, kind of underwhelming. I mean, I guess we're using the power, right? But over here, you know, other places, right, for vacuum desalination, we have a good use for the steam. And we, you know, I think have a decent use over here as well. It goes into the power plant. This is weird. This is like a weird little micro turbine. It was an interesting experiment. I think by prioritizing it highly, we've kind of kept it going pretty continuously. It's odd. We could simply put it all into a large tower here and be done with it. Just get back even more of the water. Simplify this whole spot. I just don't know if it's worth the, you know, 4 power or whatever. It wouldn't even be enough to generate, to justify an upgrade of one of these power gens, you know what I mean? So I don't think we need to do that. It's an interesting experiment. Proof of principle, it's possible, it just doesn't really matter that much. This train hasn't moved because we don't go through the limestone that I thought we were going to, because we haven't had to build our own glass. I don't necessarily want to delete it yet, because when this is going at full speed, it may not keep up on glass. But in the meanwhile, the only place we're using limestone is the exhaust scrubber. And most of this stuff isn't even really running right now. So I might pause the train, save ourselves, what, 2 people and some maintenance? Not that big a deal. Why are you stuck? You are waiting for exclusive zone. Probably out here? Yeah. That's okay. I believe it's just this area. Yeah. Although actually we could have him come out to here. That wouldn't be a problem. So maybe we'll adjust this area. Because he's going to come out through here. It has no impact on his ability to exit for us to have that train further up. So I think we're going to do that so that he doesn't block up this whole thing. I think similarly, this is not necessary. This whole mess is... well, that's its own question. Let's see if this turns into much of a problem. You're just waiting for free track, generally, because your brother train is also waiting just ahead. We keep going back and forth between definitely needing a second one of these trains and a second train being totally superfluous. Like, this guy's trying to find a way around now. But it's totally variable, right? Because of how much rock we're bringing in or not from a mine at any given point in time. Like, are we hitting a patch of rock or are we in a pretty nice ore patch? It's variable, and that's fine. But it's going to be like that. All right. I want housing. What else can we do in the meanwhile, though? Let's see. Maybe we'll come up here and we'll start sketching out some of the mine stuff, since we're already working out here a little bit. I think we can, let's say, almost justify a large sorter out here. Really, this is probably overkill, just to be clear, but I think it's overkill we can afford at this point. Why is it overkill? We're gonna have to sort multiple ores, these two, right? And we're gonna need them in relatively high throughputs. Like, think about, you know, we have 2 ore sorters here and we have 2 ore sorters here just to keep up with these mining efforts right now. And our throughput needs are only going to accelerate going forward. So we have 4 ore sorters worth of work to replace across these 2 mines. This is 10 ore sorters worth. A normal one is 240. This can do 2,400. So, you know, it's more than doubling, right? It's 250% capacity. It's justifiable, given how expensive it is, right? More importantly, 30 people. But I don't know. It's gonna be a cool complex, so I think we're gonna do it. We'll also need some train stations, of course. We will need and we'll do orientations and all of that later, but we will need a coal station, and I think, again, given the throughput, we'll do 4. Out here we have the space, we have the parts, and then we'll need, similarly, an iron station as well. Housing. We might also consider, by the way, an oil setup. But this would be, of course, fluid. Just to finish the thought. So it's going to be a full-size outpost out here. We'll need some other supporting infrastructure, etc. But with the tracks coming in and the turnaround and all that, it's going to be decently sized, which is cool. Okay, we have housing upgrade. So let's do that. That's going to take a minute because we still need to be producing more parts 4. But hey, that means good work. We've done this already. So we can pause that. you're having trouble dumping. It just means we're full. No problem. And what are we researching now? What do we want next? So, office supplies in the office would be cool. An office takes 250, 500, or 1,000 people, right? If you keep upgrading it. It's the sort of thing you build when you have more people than you know what to do with, which is the exact opposite of our current problem. So we're gonna not do that. But it's something that will be cool in the future to get. We could, let's see, we could go big vehicles, we could go computing, we could go aluminum, we could do better glass making, we could do nuclear. Should we talk for a moment about nuclear? We need to bring in uranium, which we could do off the world map. I think we talked about this briefly. It's probably better, this one, to bring it in here than it is to bother going way the heck out here for uranium. We could bring it in on the coast somewhere. We could bring it on this coast. We could bring it in on this coast, by the way. Just thoughts. It requires a lot of additional processing, but it's kind of all stuff we basically have. I won't go all the way into the recipe here yet because it's quite complicated, but basically, uranium ore gets crushed, we add acid to it, we make yellow cake, this is waste. Yellow cake gets turned into fuel, enriched uranium. We have to add hydrogen fluoride, which is easy, it's just rock and acid. And then this plus some steel turns into a uranium rod. There's a enriched uranium, there's a whole bunch of, this is the basic nuclear plant. There are several versions beyond that you can process waste stuff into, like this is nuclear reactor 2, right? You can take your spent fuel from nuclear reactor 1, do a whole bunch of work with it. It's a ton of power, which is great. It's not really our problem right this second, especially as we're adding all of these upgrades, and it is pretty complicated to set up. So I don't think we're gonna go straight there yet. What we could do that would be helpful immediately, I would say CO2 recycling could be good. Mega vehicles could be good. Computing and robotic assemblies could be good. Those are, I think, the top 3 things that are on my mind right now. Now we have a bunch of uses for our construction parts 4 already. I suppose that's going to be true generally. But I kind of think CO2 recycling is like a quick win, and the things that we'd want to get along the way are also helpful. Better belts, right? We can go up to 450 like we can with pipes, but in belts. And then better belts also gives you an even better pipe for some reason, which we'll take, but 900, that's pretty good. So like, these are nice to have anyway. This is an upgrade in place to chemical plant 1. I don't think there's any new recipes here necessarily, but everything that we make in a chemical plant 1, we could simply make better. Twice the throughput in a chemical plant 2. And one of the things we can do with that chemical plant 2 is turn CO2, which we are currently venting into the atmosphere at pretty high volumes, into graphite, which we can use in our arc furnace. Well, our arc furnace 1s for silica. The only place we'll use an arc furnace 1, and then arc furnace 2s, which we can consider using here and there as a high power but lower pollution replacement for, or alternative for, blast furnace 2s. That, or going the direction of robotic assemblies and getting our upgrades here, are also decent options. But I think we're gonna go CO2 recycling for now. Let's see. We have work to do in the meanwhile. It's all theoretical until we can actually afford to implement all this stuff, right? But hey, you can see we are getting a heck of a lot more unity in household appliances. And that's nice. And then we will be able to start trading our excess for wood as well, which will also be nice because we're running out over here. Although we'll certainly have access up here soon as well. Okay. Who has low copper? Ah, we're burning through the copper here. All right. So now maybe we have a rationale to upgrade our copper plant, right? Been kind of waiting for one. But it seems like we're finally going through these. Which makes sense, right? We're increasing our usage by running continuously, certainly, our construction parts factory, but we're also asking it to supply other places in the base where particularly we're going to be building up a supply. So this makes sense. So let's take this opportunity to upgrade our copper setup. So we're going to need to do a couple things to make that happen. We are going to have to add crusher over here somewhere. There for now, just for my keeping track of it perspective. We're definitely going to have to change a lot of this around, but when we go, as we know from blast furnace 1 to 2, and no, we will not be doing arc furnaces. It's not a throughput increase. We'll make it into a blast furnace 2, which is more efficient. And it will require crushed copper ore and sand. Sand will be a new input that we don't yet supply here. Copper ore turns into crushed copper ore, no problem. We will have to supply a third input. But hey, we have just absolute tons of sand over here already, right? So it is zero problem to include that. It's one of the reasons that we have copper and glass being produced near each other. We make these upgrades. We'll have to upgrade each of these as well to upgrade their throughput. These we will have to make 8 of instead of 4, but that's like super not a problem. We just need to get a little bit tighter. Oops. Basically, this is our width. And we can make that work roughly within the same footprint, give or take. So, not worried about that. But those we will have to add machines or continuously unity boost, but I think we'd rather add the machines. Okay, so I'm gonna do that real quick, and I will probably talk throughout here and there, but let's get after it. All right, so that's sand. We probably need to connect up this. Yeah, this is silly. This is very silly. Okay, 1 second. All right, that feels a little more rational. Let that all build for a bit. Okay, then we have to upgrade all of these as well. Hey, we have housing. Let's adopt a whole bunch of pops. Great. So that's a start. This is on. Why don't we continue with that process? And then the last thing we'll need to do is replace these 4 with these 8 and probably put a better storage in here as well. So I'll do that real quick too. All right. I don't love it, but it's fine. Part of me really wishes we were just building this from scratch, but that would be not necessary. So we're just gonna roll with it. But these are working, I think. Just have a lot of recycled copper to go through, which is a great problem to have. But these are running through. They are spitting out all the molten we need. They are being fully absorbed by these casters. And as soon as the rest of this gets built, the acid flowing through from this now upgraded mixer, right? Because we had to double the requirement for acid, we should upgrade to a mixer 2 to double the production of acid. Oh, and that also requires this to go up. All the impure copper meets up here, runs back along, and it's processed here. I also decided that enough is enough, and rather than making all these short trips, slightly longer even because there was only room to put this down here, we're gonna prioritize sending copper directly out here. Only overflow will go to our storage, although this will, of course, also still receive copper as a backup / buffer. Okay. So, let's watch and see if this whole thing runs at the speed that we expect it to. This is coming along. Need more construction parts 4. But all right, good. So the copper's coming through here. I'm wondering, did we... So this should still be fine in a number 2 pipe. Doesn't seem to be a problem so far. 8 times 24 is still just under 192, just under 200. So the impure throughput should be fine, as well as, because this is 1-to-1, the final copper throughput. Okay, so good. That is hopefully working just fine. Do we want to come over and try a little bit of surgery on our power plant? I'm just a little bit worried about the construction parts, and I do still kind of want to prioritize them over here. So I think we will not yet. We'll be satisfied for now that we've started that process, and this will certainly take a series of careful upgrades for sure. But good. The housing increase is very good though. It means that we no longer need to be pausing so much over here, which we like to see because wow, yeah, we definitely ran through our buffer there. So we'll start that again. I think we'll probably try to get half of it online first before doing the rest of it, even though there's a bit of a buffer here in parts. It'll run out pretty quickly. It's better to try to get basically all of that. But we don't exactly have the people quite yet. Here's a question. No one will loan us parts 4. I get that. It's too new of a resource. All right, what is our holdup here? It's parts 2 because it's electronics because of our copper disruption. This all makes sense. Maybe. I'm not sure if we can actually keep up with the throughput here. In fact, I'm quite sure we can't, but maybe we try. Especially considering how much recyclables we have here. Be nice to create a little bit more space here too. And I know I've mentioned it before, but we're probably going to end up redoing this glass area in relatively short order anyway when we get the new glass making tech as well. So that's all good. All right, so you are full on output because you are full on output because you are a very full belt. Yeah, this is why we can't really boost with this setup. You know what we could do to shortcut that, though? Don't need to make this a bottleneck to force it to go all the way through here. At the same time, this seems to be more the issue, huh? Still going. You're still keeping up on acid, for sure. Okay, but you don't have what you need. Are we... Aha! Knew something was off. So that was facing the wrong way. This one still is too. Yeah. Okay. That's all very silly. Glad we caught that. Cool. All right. That. When something doesn't pass the sniff test, trust your gut. Knew that wasn't all moving fast enough. That should quite fix it, hopefully. That's all fine. All right, we've got more people coming, so let's do that. I bet we don't yet have enough. Yeah, we'll take that. Is this one where we can? Nope. Grab a few more. Oh, actually, what I mean to do is this. I suppose we want half of each of these modules. And then momentarily we'll try to do this half as well, but we'll still need some more pops first. 3 months will give us a chunk. We'll keep adopting, and we'll keep growing because of our decent health rating. We're not supplying medical equipment very well. We're not. What's going on here? No disinfectant because no ethanol, because no corn mash, because no corn. Oh, that's too bad. We would like to have that. Some corn coming here. And we have enough soybeans. I think I care more about corn than diluting our vegetables slightly. So we're going to get corn growing on this side as well. That has been your once an episode 10-second check-in on our food production. Everything else is fine. All right, good. So this is fully saturating here to the point that we're getting some overflow out this way. And in fact, this is where boosting doesn't make as much sense unless we reconnect here the same way we did over here, which defeats the purpose of the overflow system. But at the same time, well, yeah, okay, I can't do it like that. Too close. This was the bane of my entire setup here, is that these guys can't be touching next to each other. What I should have done, and I realized it late enough that I could have done something about it, but so late that I didn't really care to, is that this sort of back-to-back synergy is a nice way of organizing things visually, but by forcing those outputs to be next to each other made it all the more complicated than it needed to be. So I should have had them all facing east, so to speak, or all facing west. And then it would have been more spread out. We probably could have shaved off 1, maybe 2 tiles of depth here, which changes nothing about the fact that we needed this out here, but it's something to keep in mind. Hey, we just got upgraded belts though. And that solves all of this as well. And they only cost parts 3. So we're doing that. And that means we can pause that, do this, 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 probably here, here. Oh, that's a pipe. Nope, stop doing that. Here, but it's strictly necessary, but upgrade, 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 upgrade. Sure. Why not? I mean, we have plenty of throughput here. Well, not plenty, but we have enough throughput here without that, but that is fine. Cool. Oh, we're gonna need that one too. It's not strictly necessary after a certain point, right? Because they've sort of merged off, but I just like the visualization, right? Blue belt, orange belt, you kind of know at a glance. what kind of throughput you're working with. Cool. All right, so that's copper doubled up at our base. Let's see if we can't get the electronics 2 back up to speed. Still 17 short, but you know what? I think that's probably doable. I can never remember where the second one is. There it is. And there we go. So we're not all the way back on pops, but we are all the way back up to 50% electronics 2 production, which will take. And in relatively short order, this Unity boosting catch-up will be more than sufficient. So we're not worried about that either. Oh, the one thing we didn't do is end up with any sort of copper buffer, storage buffer. We're coming straight out of the train station here because there wasn't a lot of room, but that's maybe not a sufficient argument. We might want to get some copper storage just as a buffer in here somewhere, and move, for example, the slag output over slightly. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that real quick. A little tight, but should be good. So we'll want this to serve as our functional buffer, which means we need to keep this guy going real hard until it's full, because otherwise this is all the storage we have, and that's not ideal. All right. This is good though. To hell with it. I guess this is the episode where I give up on my principled no long belts stance. Why is this? Oh, because this is facing the wrong way. All right. Cool. Well, I think this has been a pretty solid episode. One, we have built our lab equipment 3 setup. We are going to be boosting for some time, but these will turn into assembly 4s in relatively short order. We have upgraded all of our labs, and as soon as this catches up, we will be supplying them continuously, which is no small feat considering what goes into 96 Lab Equipment 3. We feel pretty good about that. Not bad at all. In addition to that, we have ramped up our copper production for sure, which is awesome. I think I will even consider us caught up and we can stop boosting all of that. That's helped us to absorb the electronics 1 burden. Maybe we'll knock off 2 of those boosts, see how that works. And we have upgraded our housing, which is allowing us to slowly but steadily return our employment back up to the previously expected levels. Why are you not moving? Free track. Whose track are you worried about? We don't like that at all. That's a big problem if we don't have oil going. Okay, I don't understand that, but we'll live with it. Yeah, and we've even started thinking about the mining outpost, which, yeah, gonna be next episode, I think, or very close to it. So, very good. I think this was a productive episode as well. Fun to start seeing all the new tech and new buildings emerge. We are really about to break into that advanced manufacturing stage of the game. It's not the very end game, but we're about to jump into the beginning of the end game, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right. Well, I had fun. I hope you did too. If you did, be sure to stop in again for the next one. But until then, bye-bye.